Tonight, somewhere on this earth, a person is standing next to a grave. They are holding flowers they never planted, dressed in black they will put away forever, speaking words they half believe, and somewhere in the quiet of their chest, they feel like none of it is right, like they are grieving incorrectly. But here is what you need to understand. You have always carried the knowledge of how to mourn. Your ancestors worked this out an extraordinarily long time ago. And what they did with those they lost will reshape the way you see yourself. Most people take it for granted that burial is ancient, that early humans simply covered a body and walked away. But science paints an entirely different picture. In 2013, researcher Berger and his team uncovered something remarkable deep within a cave network in South Africa known as Rising Star. Bones, hundreds of them, belonging to a creature called Homo naledi, a species whose brain was roughly 1/3 the size of yours. And those bones had been deliberately placed there, carried deep underground through tunnels so tight a modern human can barely pass through, to rest in total darkness. This was not accidental. This was purposeful, and it took place at least 230,000 years ago, perhaps even earlier. Your ancestor, with a brain that small, made a choice about what to do with the dead. Not consume them, not abandon them, carry them somewhere that mattered. That feeling you get when you want to do something, anything, for someone who is no longer here, that impulse did not begin with religion. It did not begin with civilization. It began long before language existed, long before fire was ever tamed. Something inside the brain understood that a person had lived and that their absence needed to be acknowledged. Archaeologist April Nowell at the University of Victoria has devoted years to studying what burial reveals about the mind. Her research suggests that deliberate burial is among the earliest evidence of symbolic thought. The moment a creature chooses to bury its dead, it is revealing something profound. It understands that a person was more than flesh and bone, that death is something categorically different from sleep, that the one who was there has now gone somewhere else entirely. You do this too. Every time you keep a photograph of someone who has passed, every time you say their name to an empty room, every time you sit at a table and feel the heaviness of a chair that will not be filled again. The Neanderthals understood this as well. At Shanidar cave in Iraq, archaeologist Ralph Selecki uncovered Neanderthal remains buried alongside what seemed to be clusters of pollen. For a long time, the meaning was considered clear: flowers laid upon a body. 60,000 years ago, a species that generations once dismissed as little more than primitive, pausing to place flowers with the dead. Later scientists raised questions about whether the pollen drifted in on the wind or arrived through burrowing animals. The debate continues, but the underlying truth holds firm. Neanderthal burials stretch across Europe and the Middle East. The bodies are often positioned with intention, folded, curled, arranged with deliberate care. Sometimes turned toward the east, toward the direction of dawn, sometimes surrounded by tools or animal remains or red ochre pressed into the soil. They were marking something. They simply had no way to tell us what. And that silence is something you already know how to read. Because grief has never lived in language. It is older than language. It is a tightness in the chest, an instinct to gather, to sit in one another's company, to refuse to let the person dissolve completely. Modern anthropologist Barbara King, in her book How Animals Grieve, records mourning behavior across dozens of species. Elephants who return to the remains of their dead season after season, running their trunks across the bones. Dolphins who carry lifeless calves for days on end. Chimpanzees who stay with the bodies of their companions, grooming them gently, unwilling to leave. Grief, King argues, is not something humans invented. It is a biological answer to loss, one woven deep into the fabric of the animal kingdom. But you went further. You shaped it into ritual. You shaped it into story. You turned it into a reason to gather, to feed one another, to hold each other steady while the world continued turning without the person you had loved. When you stand at a funeral with nothing, adequate to say, you are not failing at grief. You are doing precisely what your ancestors did before you. You are present. You are staying near. You are refusing to let that person disappear without someone bearing witness. Tonight, somewhere on this earth, a person is standing beside a grave and everything moving through them, the helplessness, the reaching for the right thing to do, the need to be there even when being there feels like nothing, every bit of it is ancient. Every bit of it is right. They are not doing death wrong. They are doing exactly what their kind has always done.